let people in. So I'll just, give it a minute for the attendees to all come in.
I might just put my light on so we don't get so much shade. Not much difference. Oh, well.
That's all right. Great. Got
24.
Quite a few people coming in.
Welcome, everyone.
So for regular folks, you will know we keep an eye on the chat box. So if you've got questions throughout the presentation, please type them in and we'll monitor that. And then we'll also have time at the end for some questions. Yeah, let's get into today's tech talk. LinkedIn for bookkeepers, a personal interest of mine, because some of you will know I do supervision of new bookkeepers and I do a bit of coaching for existing bookkeepers. And, I'm quite surprised at how many people do not have a LinkedIn profile. And I do think it's really important. And so we've got Sue Elson here today with us to give us a little talk and inspiration and information. Give us the bare bones of what you need to put up in your LinkedIn profile to be useful for our industry, your colleagues, and we'll see what Sue's got for us. And we are using my LinkedIn profile as the demonstration. So we'll see what she finds. There might be some things that need attention. So welcome, Sue, and thanks so much for joining us and talking to us about LinkedIn. So let me hand over to you.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for everybody who turns up, whether that be live today or at some point in the future. They say that 80% of success is turning up, so well done for getting here. Now, with this particular presentation, I do lots of little LinkedIn sessions, and I've provided a comprehensive Word document, with the idea being that you can save that to your computer, you can click on all the links, so you don't have to memorize everything. But I do encourage you from today's date until 2 weeks to try and get the things done within that time frame, because if you don't update your profile within those 2 weeks, there's a pretty good chance you might not do it. So I'll share my screen, and as Jo mentioned, we're going to be using her profile, so I'll come back to that in a minute. But you'll get a copy of this Word document that you can print out. And this was the information that was on the AAT website, just to let you know what it was about. I've actually written 4 books, which you can see those 4 in the background, but on Monday I launched my 5th book. My first book was 120 Ways to Achieve Your Purpose with LinkedIn. My 5th one is LinkedIn for Me and My Career or Business, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end. There's quite a lot of information in here as to the different things that you can do. But just to give you a little bit of background on me, I started my career at Westpac in Adelaide 6 days after my last Year 12 exam in 1982, studied part-time. I remember doing cost accounting at TAFE and hating it so much I quit my TAFE course, and a couple of years later started a degree, which is a Bachelor of Business in Administrative Management, which I did completely by correspondence. Also in 1994, I left Adelaide and came to Melbourne, and I got a job in recruitment, lost it when they found out I was pregnant, and I haven't had a real job since 1994. And I understand that as bookkeepers, it's a very uncertain type of work, unless you have regular clients. And then if you have regular clients and you only got 3 and you lose 1 or 2, you lose a high percentage of your income. So my 4th book was called Gigsters. And the good news is that if you follow this link on ResearchGate, you can download any one of those 4 books. But also on my journey, I set up a social enterprise, newcomersnetwork.com, in 2001. So I've been in the online world for a very long time. I also run Camberwell Networks. If you just want to do some casual networking on the 2nd Wednesday of the month, it's free. You can join that. My next book is going to be poetry, which is something very different. But something else that really identifies who I am is the amount of voluntary work that I do. And obviously I'm doing this voluntarily today. Thanks again to Joe for inviting me to do it. But I think that's a really key component of being a person who lives in Australia. I think it's something we should all consider. So I'm not sure the level of knowledge. I'm really disappointed I can't talk to you all, but I will head on. So please, any interaction in the chat would be really, really helpful. One of the things that you need to identify before you can really update your LinkedIn profile effectively is your primary and secondary keywords. So the actual words that your potential clients would be putting into a query, either in Google or on LinkedIn, that they'd be looking to find you. So obviously a lot of people will think bookkeeper, they won't necessarily think accounting technician. So you might want to put that sort of on the secondary list rather than on the primary list. But then some identifying features about you as a bookkeeper. Do you specialise in MYOB or Xero or QuickBooks or some other package? Because a lot of them may already have something in place and be needing extra support. If you don't know what your keywords are, that link you click on that and it'll give you some more ideas. There's a lot of benefits to LinkedIn, and I think a lot of people underestimate the capability of LinkedIn. It's not just a resume online. It's your opportunity to build your network, to maintain relationships with all past, present, and future clients, your ability to keep your stakeholders informed and your referral partners about what you're doing and your position in the market. It's a professional development activity, because if you see other news in the news feed, you can do that. It's a research tool. Now, you never know when some international person wants somebody who's got international bookkeeping experience, needs to find somebody locally who can help them. You just never know. So there's huge range of benefits. You can read more about that on that link. Then if you need to convince somebody else about the value of LinkedIn, you can give them the business case piece and then why you should create a profile. And the next one is how to generate leads, sales, and results. And I'll try and get to that near the end of the presentation. But the first step in any sales process is to get your own LinkedIn profile updated. So that's obviously what I'm going to focus on first. I also recommend that you have a Google My Business account. And I suggest you have one for your name first and your business name second. And the reason I suggest your name is if I hear that you're a fabulous bookkeeper, the first thing I'm going to do is Google you and see what comes up. Now, if you have a Google My Business account in your own name, then that's what's going to appear and people are going to see your reviews. So just to show you quickly what happens when you Google me, you'll see it on the right-hand side. Here's my Google My Business account. And if I was on a mobile phone, that would be at the top of the screen. And you can see I've answered a question and I've asked thousands of people to write me reviews. And I've managed to get 92 Google reviews. And there's a little bit of information and I've got updates that I've shared there as well. So that Google My Business is another thing I'd really encourage you to do. The benefit of it is it also gives you a free website. So it's a one-pager, and if you don't have one already, this is a great way for you to get started on the internet for no cost. And everything I'm showing you on LinkedIn today is for no cost. So here is my little one-pager on Google, and this is like having a big yellow pages ad. If you want a sort of a reference point, you can put all your links. And just to give you an example of how effective this can be, is if you look for a piano tuner in Albert Park, so that's, say, bookkeeper, Albert Park, if that's, where you're based. This guy, I've created his Google My Business account, and his Google My Business website is #1, page 1 of Google search results for piano tuner Albert Park. So you can see that really lovely complementary component to your LinkedIn profile. Looks like I've already got something in Q&A and in the chat. Will these links be made available after the webinar? Yes, Enrica, you'll be getting the whole document sent through to you. So, or if you don't get it, just email me and I will happily pass it on to you. How do you get people to go directly to your Google My Business website to leave reviews? Excellent question, Janelle. You have to ask them. And once you've got a Google My Business account, you get given a link which you can pass on to them. And I'll show you that at the end, because I'd love you all from today's tech talk to provide a review for the Association of Accounting Technicians. And that would be great for you as well. Is there a difference between a Google My Business website and page? Yes. Well, no, I guess. Tricky naming policy there. So in the past, there was something called Google Plus, which was basically Google's version of Facebook. It got hacked and they deleted it. So now they've merged Google Places, Google Maps, Google Locations, all these things into something called Google My Business. And when you create a location and get it verified, what will actually happen is on that menu on the left-hand side, you'll see website, and that's where you fill in those details. But if you click on the link in the handout, it goes through the instructions on how to do that. So thank you for the question, Enrica and Janelle. Keep them coming. I can answer questions all the time and be interrupted at any point. No problem at all. And yes, Joe's managing the answering process there as well for me. Thank you, Joe. Okay, other benefits to having a LinkedIn profile. If you Google your name, it's likely to come up in Google search results. And the benefit of a LinkedIn profile is it'll also show that you've been endorsed for skills, that you've got recommendations. They can see sometimes who you're connected to, what you've been doing recently on LinkedIn. So all of those things help determine whether they say, yeah, that's kind of the right person for me. It's free. You get the news feed. You can use it as your database. So from now on, I recommend that everyone you meet at any networking event, any online event, any speakers, you just message them and say, you know, great to hear your presentation today. Would love to connect. Because you never know when that person's going to come back and say, yeah, I actually need a bookkeeper, and they'll come back to you. You can use it as a research tool to build your network internationally. Say you've decided you want to go and live in the south of France for a year. You could do lots of connecting before you go there and see if you can pick up work before you even get there. You can optimize keywords. So what I've optimized is LinkedIn specialist. So if you Google LinkedIn specialist anywhere in Australia, I have up to 3 results on the first page of Google. The first one being my LinkedIn profile, and the other 2 being 2 different pages of my sueelson.com website. So it definitely works for me. You're 14 times more likely to be viewed if you have a photograph on your profile, and 7 times more likely if you've actually got a completed profile. I also don't believe that there is any such thing as job security or business security, but there is safety in being part of a network. And I'm sure many of you will relate to this story. It was coming up to the 30th of June, and believe it or not, I haven't had my first house because, oh, well, that's a messy divorce, and, you know, let's just not go there. And so anyway, I spoke to my accountant and he said, Sue, you need to increase your income before the 30th of January. So he suggested that I ask some of my clients if they would be happy to pay me in advance in June. And believe it or not, I had 3 clients who accepted that request. One paid me $5,500 up front, one paid me $2,200 up front, and one paid me $750 up front. And that's the value of a network and a relationship. And when you get stuck, you can ask for these sorts of things because my accountant wants me to increase my income over 2 financial years. So that was what he did. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask your network for some help. And if you include your contact information in your summary section, then that if somebody sees you, then they can immediately reach out to you, which I think is also important. I would love anybody to put in the chat anything that LinkedIn has been helpful to them before today. And also if they even know what their purpose is on LinkedIn. Is it just to make sure that your existing clients know that you're still working, or that you want to get new clients? You know, any of those sorts of pieces of feedback will help me tailor this presentation for you. All right, so for those of you who don't know, LinkedIn started in May 2003, that's when it was launched, And it's the world's largest professional network. I'm sorry, I forgot to update that number. I found out last week it's now 722 million members in over 200 countries. There's over 10 million members in Australia. And there's over 6.5 million active monthly users here in Australia. And the amount of time they're spending on LinkedIn has increased in 2020. And I'm sure we can all understand why. Their mission is to connect the world's professionals and make them more productive and successful. And they're publicly held. In 2016, they were purchased by Microsoft. They've integrated lots of other features into the platform over the years. They started off as a network. Now they're in publishing, and their next incarnation will be, let's do the business deal online. So some of you might have seen Facebook or Instagram shops. And so you can click on an image on these platforms now and people can purchase items directly. So just imagine, they're not offering it for digital products now or services, but they are offering it for product. So, you know, if somebody sees my book on my shop on Instagram, they can just click it and apparently buy it. I've only got it half set up at this point, but that's where this social commerce is coming. If you'd like to keep up with the news of LinkedIn, you can check that out there. More details about LinkedIn itself or the blog where they share updates and so on. That's good. Deborah's asked, is it possible to stop random people from trying to network without purpose via LinkedIn? Oh my goodness, don't we all wish for this? This is the biggest complaint I get every time I run a LinkedIn workshop. How do you stop all these people who want to date you and people who just want to sell to you and people from want to fix your website? Unfortunately, there's no way we can stop it. But every time it happens to me, I do report it because I see LinkedIn being like the goose that lays the golden eggs. And if these naughty people keep getting away with their bad behaviour, we're going to keep on seeing it. So
I didn't know you could report that. So that's a good tip. I got one literally 2 days ago, which I just thought was hilarious, from, you know, a retired military commander somewhere in the middle of the US.
Yes, yeah.
Needs an Australian bookkeeper. I don't think so. So yeah, I find it quite entertaining, but yeah, I just completely ignore it. But I didn't know that you could actually report.
Yeah, I'd really encourage you to report it, Jo, because...
Well, you better show us how to do that if we get time at the end, but I know there's other priorities, but it's good to know you can do that. So
yeah, just if you visit their LinkedIn profile and you click the more button, it's on there, report,
okay.
You know, whatever.
All right, great to know.
And the reason I really, really encourage you to do that is the LinkedIn algorithm is trying to pick up naughty behaviour all the time. So they're going to notice that, and if they start getting complaints, then they're going to identify that person as a spammer and suspend or delete their account without warning. And so that's the benefit of doing it. And I was getting spammed by all these false accounts, and LinkedIn recently picked up 13 million fake accounts that had been created. So, you know,
they were fake when they contacted you, though? How would you know that?
Because they had no connections, they were all weird names. You know, it was very clear that they were not genuine. So I reported when it happened to me, but then, you know, a few weeks ago, they said that there was 13 million attempts. So yeah, really interesting. There's something else in the chat here. I understand LinkedIn is beneficial for creating credibility and for networking, but as my ICA, what does that mean?
Integrated client account in the ATO portal, that's right, but I'm not sure that's what you mean. ICA, no, you have to tell us, Enrica, what you're on about there.
Yeah.
No, that's owners rather than professionals. No, absolutely.
Ideal client.
Oh, there you go. We're not with the times. No,
I did see that somewhere else today, so apologies for not registering that because it was just out of context. When I see CA, I think chartered accountants. I'm thinking you guys aren't chartered accountants, so I was sort of off in a different tangent. LinkedIn is so much more beneficial than Facebook because it's a verification tool. So that means that if I get a referral from a friend or somewhere else, the first thing I'm going to do is Google the name and check out your credentials. And I can't really check that out from your Facebook profile. Like I might see that you've got, you know, kids or you went on holiday or, you know, something like that, but that's not really going to tell me about your capability as a bookkeeper. So Yeah, I think you can also publish content and be recognised in your industry. You can connect with your industry. But small business owners really need to start getting themselves on LinkedIn. There's been a promotion recently, it's called the Top 20 Voices in Australia. And it talked about this guy who's a greengrocer who has 2 stores in Oakley and Dandenong. And all through 2020, he's been bringing his business into LinkedIn and showing, this is me at the market at 3 o'clock in the morning, and this is my customers. And he's got enormous engagement out of promoting his greengrocing business on LinkedIn. And so, you know, around 50% of the people on LinkedIn earn more than $100,000 a year. And I'm sure that many small business owners have aspirations to earn over $100,000 a year. So yeah, that's really good. My current clients are not yet on LinkedIn. Maybe this will change. I certainly hope so, Enrica. And that's why I wrote the 5th book, because 120 ways to achieve your purpose with LinkedIn just sounds like too big a task. So, you know, I've renamed it and given it more of an active thing, but you're seeing an edited version of that today anyway. But yes, definitely.
I'll just add in there, you know, I think for bookkeepers, if you've got your LinkedIn link to your profile in your email signature, that is already going to create interest from your clients, because they'll go, oh, what's she got there? And then oh, well, maybe it's time I get on board with that as well. So I've definitely had that conversation with a few people who've, you know, just noticed it in email signatures, and that has prompted them to go and get their own accounts. So yeah, it's
I can understand people's reluctance, because there's been so much technology that they've had to adapt to this year, and you know, probably saying, oh, now you're going to give me another one. But most people who complete their LinkedIn profile and who actually come back to me after they've done it say it was a really good experience to reflect on all the things I've done in my career and to have it written down so I don't have to keep repeating it. And, you know, once you've built that network, then you're going to keep getting these referrals, you know, particularly if you provide value. So great points there, Joe. Now, these are the issues that people talk about. No privacy. They're concerned that, you know, all their personal details. Well, I can assure you, I do not say what I had for breakfast on LinkedIn. It is a professional network, not a personal or social network. But you do have to have a digital footprint, because if somebody Googles you and nothing comes up, then it's likely that, you know, you won't get the gig. You don't know who to connect to because, you know, what's your reason? I pretty much say yes to anyone in Australia, unless I think they're in multi-level marketing. But somebody who's in website development in India is, you know, is not going to be a good connection of mine, because they're not going to pay for LinkedIn advice. They think they know it all. So I'd say no to that one. Is LinkedIn also effective for B2C? Well, it could be, but it's probably less likely. It really depends on what your consumer product is. Some consumers are very savvy and they like to know who's behind the business. And, you know, like when we think of Virgin, who do we think of? You know, Richard Branson. We don't think of Virgin and, you know, who's the pilot of the aeroplane. We just think of Richard Branson. So when you're in your own business, a lot of the time people want to know who's running it, particularly if they really like your products. My daughter, I said, do you ever buy anything off Facebook? And she says, well, if I see something I really, really, really like, I check them out online and I check their reviews, and then I consider buying it. And this is a typical process for many, many people now, is that review process. Too much time? Well, I say do a cost-benefit analysis, but everything I'm showing you here should be able to be done in no more than 20 minutes per week. Per week, not per day, not 5 posts a day, 20 minutes a week. And that's after you've completed your LinkedIn profile. Everything I'm showing you is on the free account. I only started paying for premium, even though I joined in 2003 in September this year, because I want to see who looked at me over the last 90 days and consider approaching them for book sales. If you're concerned that you can't write, don't worry. Dot points are much better. And the reason for that is they're scan friendly, because a lot of people just scan content. They don't sit there and read every line. So just, you know, just put dot points. It's no problem. If you're scared of computers, well, you need to show your digital competency, not just literacy. So literacy means you've created an account and you've filled in a few boxes. Competency means you use it as a tool to develop yourself or your business. Business rules, well, you need to have your own social media guidelines for yourself and any of your staff. And, you know, or if you work for somebody, you need to abide by theirs. And also, if you need help, ask a friend or an expert. So the first thing that I recommend that you do before you make any edits to your LinkedIn profile is do a backup. Because as I said earlier, if you accidentally do something naughty, your account could disappear. So what I do first of all is I use Google Chrome to run LinkedIn. And the first thing that I do is make sure that my client has it set. I'm just moving the little Zoom chat box out of the way if I can. Over here on the 3 dots on the right, you just go into settings and you choose advanced settings. And then you choose downloads and you say, ask where to save each file before downloading. So normally it'd be there, you just slide it across to there. So now when I visit my profile, I'll just pretend I'm Joe for today. Under the More button, it says Save to PDF. So this just keeps the content that's on your LinkedIn profile right now. Because if you change it, you can't call LinkedIn and say, can I go back to what I had there yesterday? It's gone. It's all live. So you have to put in, I recommend that you put in today's date back to front. We're up to the 26th now, is that right? Joe dash, sorry, the box is in the way again. Voigt dash LinkedIn dash profile. And that way you know just by looking at the file name that this is what your LinkedIn profile looked like on this date. Right, and then the next thing we do is we go into the Me menu and choose Settings and Privacy. And we choose Get a Copy of Your Data. And we choose the larger archive and we request it. And Jo gave me her password just for today and she's going to change it as soon as this workshop is finished because I don't need to know her password. So what will happen now is LinkedIn will prepare that data archive and send an email to Jo. And in the email will be a link and she'll need to click on the link and download those files. Now, one of those files will give the first name, last name, current job, current title, and date she connected with all of her contacts. So you can match this list up to all your invoicing list or your client list and make sure all of your clients are connected to you on LinkedIn. But I suggest you update your LinkedIn profile first, but as soon as you've done that, then you can go through that list and start, you know, inviting all those other people that you may know onto your profile. Okay, so then the next thing after you've done your backup, and when you get that email from LinkedIn, make sure you click on the link and save the files immediately because the link does expire and you won't be able to download it. So the next thing I always do is ask my clients to write down their current statistics because otherwise we have nothing to compare and we can't say, well, after 3 months of doing what Sue suggested, my traffic has increased and I've started getting more leads. So if you can't remember how to do any of these, you just click on the link and that will take you to the screen. So the first figure that we're going to look at is how many people are in Jo's network. So you just click on the My Network button, which will appear on the screen shortly, and the number will be on the top. And Jo currently has 178 connections. Well, there's Lieutenant Colonel you were talking about. Yes.
There you go. Can you just close the chat box?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, we'll do. So on the My Network, you could see 178 connections. Now, the minimum I suggest you get is 60. And then your next goal is to get over 500, because once you've got over 500, then what happens is it just says 500 plus. So that can be a good thing to go for. Now, the next one we're going to look at is the number of people who are following Jo. So that number is 182. So 4 people who Joe didn't necessarily connect to have decided that they like Joe's content and they're following her. So if you have a significantly higher number of followers, that means you're technically an influencer. So that's a good thing, I suppose. The next one is, pardon me, the number of people you're following. And that means you're normally connected to them, but then there's some other companies or individuals that you may have seen that you like on LinkedIn, and then you're following those as well. So you just want to keep it as a number to know. And back on Joe's original profile, the next number we're going to look at is how many people have viewed Joe in the last 90 days. So as we go down, you'll see that that number is 40. 40 people have looked at her profile in the last 90 days. So if your LinkedIn profile is really, really working for you, then you would aim to get that number to over 100. And that would be a good indication that your profile is working well for you. The other number is how many times you've appeared in search results in the last 7 days. And ideally, that number would be over 50. So yeah, over time, when you get really au fait with LinkedIn and you're really, really active on LinkedIn, then those numbers will increase. And you know, normally these numbers are about half of one another. So this is 7 days, this is 90 days, but not every time you appear in search result will people click on your picture. So, you know, don't worry, but they're sort of some goals to aim for. Now, further down, Joe has skills listed on her LinkedIn profile. And the ones that she's decided are her top 3 are Xero, bookkeeping, and small business. Now, the goal there for your top 3 skills is to get 20 votes each. So can I encourage you all, if you all know one another, to start voting for each other's skills? Because that's going to help all of you. Because if you get endorsed by somebody who has the same skill set, that increases the value of both of your LinkedIn profiles. So it's not like keep your cards close to your chest and don't share anything. In the online world, the more you're connected to your peers, the better that is for you and for the other person. So please keep that in mind.
And is it, I mean, obviously there's kudos in that, it looks good, but just what is the actual real value of having more endorsements there?
Well, if you think about it, I mean, people can lie and say, oh, I'm just going to vote for Joe because I like Joe. But at least a percentage of them, you would have to say, well, that's probably correct. But also when the query is made for a bookkeeper, either within LinkedIn or within Google, it's assessing the amount of votes that each profile has. So if one profile has a lot more votes than the other profile, then obviously the one with more votes is going to appear first. And the reason it does is the search query is trying to determine the person who has the most capability to, you know, get the job. So yeah, that's the way I see it. Now you can add up to 50 skills in here. I've added all 50 in because I do lots of different things. But if you want to specialize in an area, I suggest that you probably stick to 20 or less. So you can pick 3 in the top category. And then there's these other ones that automatically fall into their own categories. And then there's some that just fall into other skills. And what you can also do is you can use this little hamburger, the 4 lines, and you can shuffle the order. So you can put one above the other or below the other if you wish.
And what's the skill quiz? Is that worth us doing?
If your skill is mentioned in there. And the other day, because there's not many skills quiz that you can do, so all quizzes, see, they're mostly technical programs, right? So I tried to do the one on WordPress thinking, oh yeah, I make a few websites, and oh my goodness, it was like a nerdy tech head version of WordPress. So I failed completely. So don't worry too much about that. But if one of the quizzes in there you are good at, absolutely, go for it.
Let's see if they've got, no, they don't have bookkeeping, they don't have accounting, okay.
No, it's so far that it's all just IT skills. But, you know, maybe some of you, Excel, some of you would probably be pretty good at Excel.
Yeah.
So you could definitely do that one, or Word. Yeah, so anyway, but if you can, do it. You have to answer a certain number of questions, I think, in about 15 minutes. And then if you get enough points, then boom, it's added as a skill on your LinkedIn profile. The other thing that I encourage you to get is recommendations. Now, Jo doesn't have any here at the moment, but I encourage you to get at least 6 that you've received and 6 that you've given. And you can be really strategic about who you give recommendations to. So say, for instance, you know this person who heads up a business network in your local area, and you've had a lot to do with them, and you write them a recommendation on LinkedIn. Every time somebody looks at that person's LinkedIn profile, they're going to see your recommendation until, you know, the second next person writes a recommendation for them. So you can be quite strategic about that. You could definitely recommend your clients, particularly if they're high profile. Yeah, all sorts of people.
And is that something that you would say it is simply up to us to offer it and do it whenever we feel to, or is it something that, you know, in LinkedIn world, it's polite to ask for it, to let people know? I mean, how do you approach recommendations? Because I've often looked at that and wondered and thought, I'm not really sure, what should I be doing there? So
yeah, look, I think it's always nice to be the friendly person first. And, you know, you could ask them if they'd like you to write a recommendation, but I'd be more inclined just to write it and then see how they respond. Now, if they don't like what you've written, they can refuse to publish it, or they can make some suggestions before it gets published on their LinkedIn profile. But if I was you, I'd look at their LinkedIn profile, think about what you know about them, and talk to those key words that are important to them. So say, for instance, you were working for this grocery business, you know, hi, I've been providing bookkeeping services to George's fruit and veg shop for the last 5 years. George is a pleasure to work with. He provides all the necessary information on a timely basis, and I look forward to continuing a fantastic relationship with him in the future. And then you put your name in the recommendation as well, because not everybody looks at the name on the left, but if they read the spiel, then they'll see your name there. And you've also got the word bookkeeping in. So, you know, how cool is that?
Right.
The only thing about recommendations is you must not say anything that you can't feel comfortable saying in court. So, I mean, as the bookkeeper, you probably know a little bit more about the business than the average person, but that doesn't mean he's fantastic at marketing, for example, you know, unless he really is good at it, you've seen it. But you can't talk about what George is like in any other area apart from what you've personally witnessed. So just keep that in mind. Yeah. And yeah, so they're your stats. You can also decide, you know, how many posts you're doing, how many articles you're writing. I'll come back to those a little bit later. I've got another quick question here in the chat. I didn't realise you could take a skills quiz. Yes, there you go, Janelle, something else you've learned today. Look, there have been so many new features added to LinkedIn this year. It made writing this latest book, you know, quite a challenge. Now, does Jo have an all-star profile? That depends. Yes, she does. And what that means is that she has enough information filled in enough boxes to say that she's an all-star. It doesn't mean she's going to get higher search results. Whoops, you can see I used to use this for the City of Boroondara. It was modified for today, so apologies, I forgot to update the footer of the document. Now, there is a cheat sheet where you can go through those details as well. But the next thing is one of the most important changes that I can suggest that you do from today, and it's nice and quick and easy. So when you get a LinkedIn profile, what will happen is LinkedIn will give you a URL where you are on the internet. And it will normally say Jo-Voigt- and a whole bunch of numbers and letters. Now, when it's left like that, it looks terrible on your email signature or your resume or your business card or wherever you want to put it, but also it does not optimize it in Google search results. So all you have to do is go over here to where it says edit public profile and URL, and you click on this little pen and you see if your name as one word is available. If it's not, you can put a dash there and see if that's available. And if that's not available, you can put a number on the end. And I normally recommend 8 because a lot of people don't use it. But also, it should not be anything to do with your date of birth. And just remember, I'm an ex-banker, so there's no way I want you to put anything to do with your date of birth on there. You can also put your post-nominal. So I've got a Bachelor of Business, so it could be B-Bus there, or I could be a doctor, so I could be Dr. Joe Voigt, you know, whatever. But just make sure you change it. It is not necessary to include your business name there. Just make it about your name. And further down on that screen, you need to make sure your profile is visible. If you get reported in the newspaper or journalists are come tracking you down, you do not need to close your LinkedIn account. You just turn off your visibility. But also in here, you want to make sure that your photo is publicly visible and that all the sections of your LinkedIn profile are turned on. Because sometimes when LinkedIn does an update, you miss, they change your settings on you without you asking. So just make sure that all of those are good to go. Now, the next one is probably the most time-consuming task, to really think about what you want to be found for. And Jo did quite a little bit of competitor analysis before we worked on her LinkedIn headline, which is this component here. And she felt that a lot of people were looking for help on Xero. So that's why it was put in here. And then Xero conversions, Xero training, looking for a registered BAS agent, technical writing, coaching and mentoring. Now, Jo, is there a reason we don't have the word bookkeeping in here?
I have changed this a number of times over the years.
Yeah.
And I actually was going to change it recently, except that I did remember we had this planned and I thought, well, I want to change it. And, but it's interesting, the keywords that get searched, you know, in Google world do change over time. And also, my focus has changed in the last few years. So I actually do want to update the keywords, but I thought I'd wait for today. Bookkeeper is probably my lowest priority, to be honest, because I'm much more interested in finding clients for conversion and training, the technical writing, the coaching, mentoring. So whether I put bookkeeper back in there, undecided, but yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
But it could be Xero bookkeeper, for example.
Or you could say Xero bookkeeper help.
Well, the help is more about the people who do their own bookkeeping, but who need help from someone who knows stuff. They don't actually want a bookkeeper in their business. So I do a bit of ad hoc consulting for business owners, answering their questions, helping them out. And so that's where that came in.
Well, I think putting it there would be very good for you, because it doesn't say that you're a bookkeeper, but it will help you be found if they need bookkeeper help.
Yeah, and actually that kind of could appeal to the bookkeepers who need help in Xero, as well as the business owners. So yeah, that's fine.
So what I would classify that as being your main label. Now, I know that you label jars, not people, but if I come up to you at an event and I say, hi, my name's Sue and I'm a plumber, you're going to know exactly kind of what a plumber does. But if you say, well, I provide help with Xero on conversions and training, I'm a registered BAS agent, I do technical writing, coaching and mentoring. What? Who's going to remember all of those things? And what happened was, when I was Sue Everything, because I do lots of different things, I wasn't getting gigs. And then when I said I'm an independent LinkedIn specialist, people started remembering Sue does LinkedIn. Oh, this is social media. Maybe Sue knows something about, oh, that's LinkedIn and that's websites. Maybe she knows something about that. And I still ended up with a wide variety of work that I enjoy. But because I had my label up front, then that was what helped me be remembered and get referrals. So the next thing I'd suggest is there something that identifies you as a different type of helper than the average? What sort of adjective would you use to describe yourself?
My head's not there at the moment, so because I'm thinking about the whole group and the whole AAT world as well. So let's not worry about the specifics for me. I mean, I'm happy to just do that. But I'm thinking, for instance, a lot of bookkeepers, they specialise in, say, sole traders or tradespeople or small business or retail or medical. So that's the sort of thing that you guys who are listening could throw in there. So it might be medical bookkeeper or
But I'm also thinking about another adjective to describe it. So say for instance they were a medical.
You mean like expert or specialist or experienced, or what are you looking for?
Yeah, experienced, collaborative, cooperative, flexible, all those type of words that say, look, this is not just a bookkeeper, who comes in and crunches the numbers and doesn't listen to what I say. They're a proactive bookkeeper, those types of words.
We like that word. Proactive's good in our world.
Yeah. So, so if you said you're a proactive Xero bookkeeper help, then we're starting to remember, oh yeah, that's a bit more interesting. Xero help, okay? Which could be classified as, I give them no help, which is kind of funny, really. I only just realised that. So conversion. So after you get your label in, you put in the rest of your keywords you want to be found for, and then at the end of all that, you put in something else that you're interested in, just to make you a little bit more interesting and memorable. So would that be yoga, dancing, any of those that you're comfortable sharing publicly?
I guess I think I have my art mentioned on the LinkedIn, so you could say artist.
Yeah. And then what we need is an emoji.
Uh-oh.
So are you a painter?
Yes. See, look, he's right there. He's right there with his little hat.
You want to be a female painter? You want the artist palette?
Yeah, no, I want the male painter, just to confuse people.
Okay, fair enough. You could be Pierre.
Joseph. Joseph is my other name.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, very suave.
Okay, so you get a little, right. So, and so is that about, see, I haven't tended to do anything like that because I do think of LinkedIn as like, this is just professional connections here. So, but you're suggesting that we bring in a little bit of personality and something about us as an individual.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because it just makes you way more interesting, Oh, so then when they speak to you, what sort of art do you like? What do you do? Like it's so interesting. Right. Donna, she's just changed hers. Please, Donna, tell us what you are now. We'd love to see it.
So really you only want to put something in there that you actually want to talk about. So I could, in fact, say put yogi or chef or whatever, and that would initiate conversation. So, okay, that's a good point. So you throw in something interesting about yourself that you actually are willing to talk about with your clients and potential connections, because I'm not sure I can be bothered talking about my art with them, but maybe there's other things that I might talk about. But that's cool. Leave that, and I will look. That'll be my homework. We're all going to have homework today, people.
Yes. Come on, Donna, tell us what you changed yours to. We'd love to.
Donna Cox.
Yes.
But we'll see. Yeah, we can search her as well. Okay, so what else do we need to, what are the priorities? Because we've got 10 minutes left. So what are the priorities?
Okay, so your photo, your eyes need to be on the 1/3 line, preferably wearing a high neck garment with your head at the top of the circle and your clothing framing your face. So that's really important. Here in the contact info section, you can put in your website if you've got your own private one, and you should copy paste that link from your internet browser, and you should choose other, and then you can give it a description. And then if you've got a membership page on the AAT website, you could also add that, put the link in there from the Find a Bookkeeper profile and choose other, and then you could say AAT member profile, etc. So
how many do we get there? Do we only get 3 websites? Okay. All right. So that used to be my Xero advisor link. So Not sure what happened there. I'll have to update that
Yeah.
rather than just the Xero website, but that's okay.
And we're definitely going to remove your date of birth because that's part of your identity.
Yeah, well, I've got it visible only to me, but I wasn't up. Yeah, I'm happy not to have it there anyway. I agree.
Yeah.
We don't
now,
want that.
Joe has this feature here called providing services. Most of you will probably only have open to work. If you need to know how to do that, you need to go to linkedin.com/services, and then you can nominate, you can request the functionality for that. In the About section, what you'll see here is details of how to contact Jo and the page which talks about her services, then more keywords, and then a narrative. There's a lot of different, and prices. There's a lot of different ways that you can write the summary. Again, that is in the handout. You've now got a featured section, and that will show you some, major things. So if you want to have a featured section, Joe's put in here a couple of links. And then what you need to do is go through and provide details of all of your previous roles, and not just your title, but also your keywords after it. And then in the description, I recommend that you start off with achievements, tasks, and the description of the actual company you work for. Now, I am more than happy for all of you on this call to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm also happy for all of you to actually stalk me as many times as you want to copy ideas off of my LinkedIn profile. That is perfectly fine. I'll just quickly check the chat here. Do you use a separate LinkedIn profile for your artwork? Not appropriate, Laurie. You're only one person, so you can feature two things on the one. What Jo could do if she wanted her art to be separate is she could create a separate company page and put all of her art on the Jo Voigt company art page, and then the Jo Voigt other services could be on a different company page, but you only have one LinkedIn profile. Donna changed her URL. Now she's trying to change her headline. Good on you. How do I get an emoji? Monica asks. You just right click on your keyboard and it should give you the choice to add an emoji. If that doesn't work, you go to a website called getomoji.com. You look for the emoji, you copy it, and then you paste it in. So there's two different ways to do that. Okay, so as you go through, you put in all your old jobs right back to day one. I don't care if somebody doesn't want to hire me because I'm 55. They don't understand my value, so they can get stuffed. But for everybody else, I want them to know that I've had that baking experience and that I've worked in all these other companies, and it gives me more words on my profile and more chances to appear in search results. I currently get over, I think it's about 1,200 views per 90 days. So that helps me get better quality work. And any of your licenses and certifications, including, just look for me, Sue Elson, and on the screen it says follow, but if you click the more button, you can choose connect. So that's easily enough done. And if that doesn't work, just email me and we can sort it out. My email address is on the notes. Voluntary work that you've done is really important. Fill in your skills and then fill in as many other boxes as possible. So over here on the add profile section, there's loads and loads of boxes. So what I'm going to do is just quickly show you some of the boxes on my profile so that you can see how this is done. I've also got a background picture that tells a little bit more of my story. I had to get my photo updated because people didn't like my fuzzy hair, so I got complaints. This is the services component on my page. You can see lots of things. I've been quite active on LinkedIn. So I don't just put my job title in, I put keywords after it. I put in videos, and this is how I write up jobs: achievements, tasks, description. And you do it for each one. So I do work for this Box Hill Institute or the CAE, achievements, tasks, description. And because I work there, I've also got my contact details in there. And again, more images. This one is also really important for you as bookkeepers to talk about your studies and list all the subjects, because again, they're fantastic keywords to have on your LinkedIn profile. So dig out your academic transcripts and pop that in. You can mention just subjects, or you can mention topics So you might have done accounting, and then that included GST and tax and audit and all those other things. So what you can do is you can say topics included GST, tax, audit, so on. You can put in videos again. As I said before, you can put in your working with children check. I've also got my police check in here. You should definitely add your AAT membership here in the licenses and certification section, but also further down, there's the volunteer stuff, in the organisation. So anything you pay a membership fee for, you can put it in licenses and certifications, as well as organisations, the two places. Any honours or awards, any publications. I did French at school for 5 years, so I've put that in there. Any projects you've worked on, all of these things can be filled in. Now we've got some more Q&A here. I'll just quickly go back into there.
Yeah, we're nearly at the hour, so we do need to start wrapping up. So we've just got, another couple of questions. Do I only put in the education that is relevant? I've put all of mine.
All of it, absolutely.
As Sue said before, you know, it's you as the person, and I know I used to separate that out, but it's now all together.
It's all part of who you are, and it all shows that you've got capability, even if it's in a completely different field.
Yep.
And yeah, all the questions are answered. So thank you for those. Now I'll just quickly run through the format of the handout. It tells you how to fill in each of these sections with extra links for more information. It also talks about how you can start the journey if you need to create a company page, and how to maximize the use of that if you'd like to be involved in groups. And then if you start getting to the point of doing content, your first part is just to engage with the newsfeed, then you curate, you pick really great stuff from AAT and share it, and the third stage when you create your own. And then how to optimize content if you decide to write articles. And then here are some examples of posts that have worked really well to give you some clues. And then how to do research and get sales. And then I quickly talk about video. But before I go, I'd love to hear what's been most helpful to you today, if you want to pop that in the chat. But also, before you go out and rush out and buy a website, I encourage you to read those 3 articles, because lots of people have wasted lots of money on websites. And finally, I would love you to write a review to say thank you to the Association of Accounting Technicians for providing this sort of opportunity to you, because the more reviews that AAT gets, the better again that is for your association. If you would like to hear about the book launch I did on Monday, you can watch another video which goes into the top things that have appeared on LinkedIn in 2020 and my top 10 secrets from my latest book. So you can watch that there, all free of charge. And if you want to buy the book, that's there. Now I'm getting some more questions.
Well, people saying thank you, absolutely fantastic. And Vicky loves your hair. And yeah, so we will put the recording up and we'll email out the Word document, which has got so much more in it than what we've covered today. So that's fantastic. Summer homework for everybody to update this. And Sue and I have talked about the possibility of doing some other sessions next year. So we'll hopefully plan that together, but we'll let you know next year. And for those of you in Melbourne, check out Sue's classes, because that was how I first connected with Sue, was part of a networking group and did a class with her, which was fantastic. And then I've since done more with Sue. So, and really it's so valuable getting a really good LinkedIn profile for new and established. And, you know, I would say to the people who don't have anything and feel they don't have much to put in a profile, it doesn't matter, just start it. Just start it and put in, even if it's the bare bones, it's enough to start with. So, thank you so much, Sue. It's been really valuable, and I'll be putting this in the newsletter. And sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Vicky's got a question. Should photos be professional photos? I don't like photos that look like passport photos. They're a real turn off. But I also don't like photos that look like you're at a wedding. So a photo that looks how a typical client would like to see you is probably the best. And so I want to be seen as friendly and professional. I do not want it to be a competition about my hair, which is why I was so offended. And thank you, Vicky, for your lovely compliment there. And yes, another question was, do I do online courses? If you look at sueelson.com under presentations, there's always a list of what I'm going to do. And I also do one-on-one stuff, which can, if you want to give a good crack to your LinkedIn profile first, and you want to book a time to do the rest, you know, that's also an option. And anybody who comes to me from something else, I always give a $50 discount to. So that's another option for you as well. But there's literally heaps of free content on my website and on my LinkedIn profile. So you don't have to spend any money, but if you want to, you know, that's another option as well.
Brilliant. Okay. If I can, well, I might just stop, or you stop the screen share too.
Absolutely.
And we will, I think, wrap it up and say thank you again. And thanks everybody for attending and those who are listening later. And we don't have a Tech Talk in December, but we will for January. So I will see you all then.
And Vicky asked, will you receive a recording? You will?
Well, no, that goes up on the AAT website as usual. So that'll be up probably next week. But I'll also put a link to it in the next newsletter, folks. So you'll be able to find that link and listen again when the newsletter goes out. So
perfect.
Okay.